what to expect on your first trail ride experience. Hey YouTube family, my name is Neil with Simpson Family Jeeps. We're out at an awesome off-roading event this weekend to share with you what you can expect when you're ready to take your Jeep to go off-road. So when you first bought your Jeep, you might have had dreams and ambitions of the fascinating and adventurous places that your vehicle might take you. This video is meant to break down the first-time jitters that you might experience in actually kind of jumping into an off-road adventure. I think that one of the misnomers about off-roading is that you're absolutely gonna break your rig, or you're gonna scratch it all up, or that you're gonna get stuck in a situation that you personally are not well equipped to recover yourself from. And while all of those things might be a little bit true when it comes to shifting into 4-low and banging in the backwoods of some random property, the reality is that amongst our Jeep community, there are these awesome curated events that happen all over the country. I mean, realistically, all over the world, that can help you get acclimated to how your Jeep works, both on-road and off-road. There are communities dedicated with people who are willing to teach you and share with you and jump in and fix something when something goes just a scooch wrong. So in choosing to participate in a trail ride, trail preparation or understanding the event you're going to get involved with is pivotal. You want to pick an established event or activity that realistically has a dedicated base of volunteers and individuals who are just there to ensure that you have a good time. Now, there's a handful of events across the country. Some of them have been going on for years, some for decades, and one in particular, Jeep Jamboree USA, has been going on arguably almost as long as Jeep has been around, certainly the aftermarket as we know it. With that said, we today are at Bantam Trail Fest, which is what I like to call the mini Bantam, and it happens in the fall and at a time when we have these beautiful fall colors in rolling western Pennsylvania. You can find an event that is close to home, whether your Jeep is stock or mildly equipped or wildly over the top, to get out and stretch the legs of that vehicle. Now, there's a number of off-road parks that have dedicated staff for recovery and some minor guiding, but realistically, if your first opportunity to go out is not an actual established class or event, make sure that you always have a buddy to wheel with and that you know the terrain you're going to. Realistically, if you don't have either of those things figured out, going to a dedicated trail event, ride, opportunity, show, whatever, is gotta be number one on your list to ensure that you have a good time. When preparing to go to whatever trail ride or event that you have chosen, you're gonna wanna make sure that you've read all of the promotional material. Again, we're basing this on the idea that you're going to a dedicated event, curated to making sure that people have a good time. Most trail rides require front and rear tow points. It can never be just the ball hitch of your rear tow hitch. It can't be that, but it can be a rear tow point, a rear tow hook, appropriately fastened to the vehicle. You must have front tow hooks. It can't just be your axle. Nobody wants to lay in the muck and mire in case you do get stuck and hook up that strap. We want to have easy enough to access tow points that are engineered to safely recover from. Likewise, you're going to want to make sure that you don't have bald tires. You're going to want to make sure that you maybe have a traction device. Not required, but definitely, a suggestion. Additionally, you're going to want to make sure that your vehicle is base safety. What I mean by that is you don't have any known issues where it's going to break or potentially leave you stranded. You're not gonna have a good time, and the other people behind you aren't gonna have a great time. So get to know your rig. They may have a minimum tire size, they may have a maximum tire size. And this sounds silly, but make sure that you know that you can shift in and out of four-wheel drive before going to the event. Additionally, make sure that you plan to get there early. Now, I know I'm not the most timely character, but this is kind of old hat for me. So, do as I say and not as I do necessarily, but get there early so that you can get registered on site. And even if you've registered ahead of time online, there's typically some sort of online check-in or registration that needs to be done. Additionally, there's oftentimes a tech inspection, and you may, if you get there earlier than other people, be able to breeze through tech inspection a little bit easier. Again, tech inspection is typically done by volunteers who are ensuring that your Jeep is up to par for the off-road adventure that is ahead of it. Again, these folks aren't going to needle all over your vehicle and pick it apart. They're just trying to make sure that there's nothing obvious that's going to break or fall apart in the process. Another thing you may want to do is dress for success. Know what the weather is going to be like when you're going to go. Are you going to be going winter wheeling? Are you going fall wheeling? Has it rained a lot recently? Are the trails that you're going to be on really muddy and sloppy, or are they really dusty and dry, and you might want to have the top and doors on so you don't get smoked out in the process from the dust. That's all going to be personal preference. But, the idea of dress for success is not just in your first job interview, but when you are wheeling as well. Finally, make sure that you have some base recovery and maintenance tools and equipment on board of your Jeep before you go off on your adventure. Now, I'm not saying that you need to be decked out with all the tools of your garage. Honestly, power to weight ratio is king, and remember that. Have some basic tools so that you can provide assistance when called for, and that you can help yourself just a little bit. Make sure you have some base recovery equipment, more so than your tow hooks, maybe a fire extinguisher, so you want to cover that safety, recovery, and a little bit of maintenance tooling as well, just so that if things go wrong, you can help yourself or a fellow person on the trail just a little bit in the process. Understanding the trails. Now, this is a big one because not all curated trail events have or operate at dedicated facilities for trail riding. Sometimes they're used for horseback riding when they're not being used for full-size vehicles. Sometimes it's an ATV facility that's allowed us to take our full-size Jeeps. Is there a dedicated trail map available ahead of time or classifications of trails that you will be wheeling? Now, that tech inspection that I mentioned will help you determine the class or the difficulty that your Jeep is theoretically capable of encountering. And I get it. There's a veteran out there watching this right now. It's like, oh, I've wheeled everything in a bone stock Jeep with 30-inch tires. Cool, me too. But just because you can doesn't mean you should. And when there are hundreds of Jeeps involved in an off-road event, it's not always about what I'm capable of, but what the group as a whole. And if I have to stop and back up and get running starts and choose lines really precisely, then maybe that's not the best for the group as a unit. So make sure that we're following what the tech inspection says and the trail system and trail guides have to offer. Likewise, a lot of trail systems are denoted by green, blue, black. Now, this is not universal. It can change from facility to facility, event to event. So make sure that if you have any concern, make sure you ask about the difficulty ratings, not whether or not you're comfortable with it or whether your rig's set up for it, but kind of have them tell you about the obstacles that are involved. If it's a green trail and it has a lot of mud in it and you came with, kind of a highway inspired tire, you might actually be able to do a blue trail better because the blue trail is actually, maybe just some hills or some light rocks. Pick your trails as they correlate with your rigs and your abilities. Each trail is going to vary facility to facility, but in theory, green trails are stock friendly. So if this is your first time out wheeling, or it's been a long time since you've been wheeling, and I don't care how big your rig is or how little it is, green trails are oftentimes just a nice way to get off the beaten path. I actually love doing green trails, and it doesn't matter if I'm on tons and 40s or I'm in a bone stock rig. Sometimes you get some of the best scenic vistas with just beautiful views and kind of leisurely drives. Honestly, green trails can be really kind of therapeutic for a lot of people. You just kind of get in and cruise and enjoy the Jeep and the outdoors for what they are. There's usually not tons of thick, sloppy mud, but there might be some water crossing or some mud that has a little bit of rock or sand at the bottom of it, so you always have some decent traction. There'll probably be some tight turns and twists if you're east of the Mississippi, and if you're west, there'll probably be some pretty good inclines or declines, but it'll be on a more sticky surface, if you will. Blue trails are just what we're going to call moderate. And again, think of green as kind of being easy or entry level, and blue is going to be your moderate or your intermediate. Typically, you're going to have a little more rocks. You might expect, to bottom out on some obstacles, maybe a few steeper climbs or descents in the process. Definitely some turns if you're one of the bigger rigs. One of our minivan JKUs or JLUs, or gosh, those big old school bus gladiators out there, you might have to take a multi-point turn to get around a tree or an obstacle. You'll definitely be able to clear it, but you may have to do some multi-point turns. Black trails are kind of, top of the food chain. This typically requires a 35-inch or bigger tire. A lot of our curated trail rides don't let you on if you have bigger than a 40 or 42. So check into that before you go and automatically build your rig and sign up for an event. There are a lot of events who have a trail tire size cap so you don't tear up the trail. But with that said, that black trail typically has a requirement of some type of traction device or locker, a tire size that's usually 35 to 40. Absolutely, recovery equipment is required. And, you might want to have a little more of a slinky suspension in the process. Typically, you're going to get steeper hill climbs or descents, twistier trails, deeper mud, further water crossings, a number of things that will kind of push you and your rig in the process. Definitely look into whatever area of the country you're going to be in, figure out what the weather is going to be, figure out what the trail system looks like and how it may be affected by those different climatic experiences. Have a great time, whether it be green, blue, red, purple, white, yellow, orange, wherever you're at in the country. Run the trail, as the guides have said, and enjoy yourself in the process. Whew! I was sweating because you know what? While I did check the weather before this trail event, it was cold this morning, but these are some fine dubs, and I gotta be honest, this fit looks good on me. So we have kind of these basic requirements to going off-road. Realistically, if you're watching this and you have a kind of a stock inspired JK or JL or JT Gladiator, and those are Wranglers and then the pickup truck, understand that your Jeep's kind of ready to go. In fact, when it rolled off the assembly line, it was probably more off-road capable or confident than you might be, and that's okay. It's kind of a great world we're living in the off-road industry, that these Jeeps are so ready to take us on these great adventures. You want to maximize your traction off-road. You really want to allow that suspension to move and remain in contact with the obstacles of the terrain that you're on. So probably one of the best entry-level modifications are going to be disconnectable sway bar links, specifically in the front. That's really going to allow that axle to move comfortably under appropriate articulation. Now, if you're fully disconnected, and again, you're a veteran off-roader with a huge slinky suspension, I understand that it can be done, but theoretically, sometimes we can actually overextend our suspension. Realize that who I'm talking to now is that stock or mild lifted Jeep. You want to be able to disconnect that front axle and allow it to remain in contact as you kind of traverse over these obstacles. Prepare to air down. Is it required? Sort of, not really, I don't know. Some trail ride events go, hey, you must air down. Now, are they actually pulling out pressure gauges and checking your tires. Most don't. But, you know, your Jeep and your experience is going to benefit from airing down in the process. Additionally, you have to be able to then air back up and check your pressure. That would be something you need to know about the facility or event or trail experience that you're going to, is do they have those capabilities there for you, or do you need to provide them yourself? So onboard air, air tanks, there are a number of things that allow you to have a more successful experience. One of the advantages to choosing a quality trail ride event, whether it is a well-organized event like the one we're at today, or whether it is a small group from a club that is going out on an off-road adventure, one of the best takeaways is going to be the people that you get to share the experience with. The Jeep community and off-road community as a whole is typically some really great individuals. And that's one of the really redeeming qualities of off-roading. It's this shared experience and shared interest. We all come from wild and different and exciting walks of life, and yet we kind of come together under this, hey, let's go outdoors and play with our 4x4s. And honestly, you might be a little bit worried about, what if I break this, or what if I get stuck here, or what if I have to get recovered? I gotta be honest with you, there's a bunch of people out there who are really, really excited to be like, I hope I get to fix this person's Jeep, and I hope I get to pull out my winch line, and I hope that I can help recover somebody today. So everything you're worried about, they're excited about. And in fact, they're not just excited, but they're well equipped and prepared to help you, because they started where you were once as well. And the Jeep community as a whole are some of the best people who are willing to jump in and lend a hand when somebody is in need. And whether it be a curated trail ride experience, or whether it be a philanthropic, charitable activity, Jeep people are good at coming together to share that moment. So if you're building your confidence, or you have another, or if you want another reason to be like, hey, yeah, I can do this, it's the people. And so choose your trail ride experience appropriately. If your choice is between a late night, well-equipped adventure in the backwoods, or a day ride with a dedicated group of wheelers, choose the latter. Because quite frankly, you're setting yourself up for success. And over here, you might be setting yourself up for a 2 a.m. recovery in knee-deep mud. Choose the people and the process that you're going to engage in wisely. It will have a direct impact on the great experience you can have. Trail guides and volunteers are absolutely critical to ensuring a successful event. And so we have an awesome opportunity to interview and hear from some of those trail guides. And so I hope that you enjoy their stories and why they've chosen to give their time to an event like this, and ultimately to make sure that you have a good experience. Rob from Daddy Jeep Garage, what is it like to be a trail guide on these events?
Here at Bantam, I think we are a very good source for trail guides, because we offer additional time on the trails for our pre-runs. We offer a lot of training for our trail guides, and we offer a lot of very experienced trail guides to help them and walk them through learning and growing. Even for our participants at this event, it's wonderful for anybody to learn and grow, because we have a ton of experienced people.
So for those first-time participants who might be building their confidence, they can comfortably know that they're coming to an event that they're going to be guided through.
Right.
Right.
And that even goes all the way back to our staging people. Our staging people are fielding these questions and building their confidence and assuring people that we have very skilled guides that are going to help them through, and we have spotters in the difficult sections. So this is a very beginner-friendly environment.
You actually have a couple different sessions, is that right, before the event even ever happens, where you were training the guides. So the people who are coming out can be reassured that they're not just getting thrown into something willy-nilly. Is that right?
Absolutely, yeah. So our guides, many of our guides have been here for years.
Okay.
I mean, I would say half or better of our guides I've seen here for 10 years. But there's the new guides, yes. We offer, when we mail, anybody that signs up to be a guide is going to be on the email chain. They get all the notifications for our pre-runs, which are work days. We're going to put them to work, but also allow them to have time on the trails. Typically try to have our work days half work, half trail times so people can learn how to run the trails and get guidance. And even this year we had a trail guide recovery training course to help teach our trail guides basic recovery stuff. We have a recovery team for the complex stuff, but we taught our trail guides that basic level recovery stuff. Lots of good education.
And when and how do you get into guiding?
When Bantam started, 2011, my Jeep had sat in the field for 4 years because of my kids took all my time in baseball and Cub Scouts. I saw the ad for Bantam. I thought, this sounds cool. I want to get my Jeep done. But I didn't want to register because I had a lot of work to do. So I did all this stuff, and 2 weeks before the event, I went to register and they were sold out. I'm like, well, crap, now what? I did all this work. So I emailed whoever was in charge then, I think it was pre-Patty Joe, and they said, well, if you want to volunteer, you can come. And here I am, 13 years later.
What would your advice to a first-timer be?
Well, that is the beauty of Bantam, and I'm sure there's plenty of other events like it, is there's something for everybody here. We have a Renegade that's been our trail guide for years. I mean, you don't need big capabilities to come enjoy Bantam.
Right.
I mean, we have some basic rules there on the website. You do need recovery points on the front of your vehicle. The heavier trails, you might need lockers, you might need a winch, but we have something for everybody. A bone stock Jeep off the showroom floor can come have fun here. And of course, myself and some of the others, we're gonna push you. We're gonna want you to be bigger. We're gonna want you to go on a Blue Trail next year just because we wanna see people grow.
Sure.
We wanna help people learn and grow. And not everybody's, you know, we have people that run green trails and they're perfectly fine on them.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
So this year, you kind of had creative liberties to kind of change how the trails are. So how are trails maintained or constructed, you know, to ensure that people have a fun and safe time?
Right, and that is, you know, it's ever changing. So we have a team, myself and a handful of us guides that have been here forever. Some of us run equipment, and we have some people that are very skilled with the equipment that I'm not. And we have our work days. I've been here 10 times this year. Wow. Working on trails, maintaining trails, changing things, building new features. Part of this ever-changing atmosphere is we have gladiators now. Right. So our trails were great for years, and then you throw a gladiator really on our trails.
Yeah.
So then we had to make some changes
like
this year.
The school buses.
Oh, absolutely,
really,
yes.
Really, I see you gladiator people.
That's
all
right. I see them. They're out there. Yeah. But we've had to make changes for the gladiators.
Right.
You know, and that giant overhang in the back has challenges on our black trails, and the turning radius has challenges on our green trails. So a lot of our trails the last few years have had to been modified to accommodate these school buses.
Sure.
Part of our trail design is some of these areas, if we get some weather later, some of these obstacles might become a problem. Right. So we've built in alternate trails to almost everything that could be a problem here. This is one of the best learning places. I mean, you know, I remember Camp Jeep, which I never went, and that was kind of the same atmosphere. Sure. where these newbies get to go and they really get to learn their vehicles and themselves.
Sure.
It's a great environment.
And I remember 2 years ago, I was following you. We had an opportunity after the event. We went out and we wheeled the Black Trail, and there's a waterfall descent, and we're coming down, and there's a boulder the size of a Volkswagen Bug right in the middle of it. And the spotter was like, you got to put your driver's side tire up on this, and then you got to give it a little gas and then immediately mash the brake. Right. It was very specific. It was like 3 parts, you know?
Yep.
And I was like, he's like, you're going to bounce and you're going to slide. And I was like, are you kidding me, right? And so I listened to the spotter. He was spot on.
Right.
I went up, one tire on, gave it a little bit of gas and immediately on the brake, and the Jeep did exactly what he had predicted.
Right.
That was so cool, and that's, you know, kind of a testament to the training and the kind of the veteran nature of the people who are volunteering their time.
Sure,
so,
absolutely. Even as a guy that is experienced and knows how to wheel,
right.
and you're still gaining experience from somebody that's on this obstacle all day.
That's on the obstacle, because I looked at it and I was like, I am going to hang my diff on that. I'm gonna have to get way to the left, way to the right. I don't know, and that spotter gave me the best advice. I followed my spotter, listened to them. I knew that I had recovery people either direction, and did exactly as they said, and boom, I was through the obstacle. It was so cool, you know?
Yeah, that lesson applies anytime you go wheeling. Always listen to your spotter. Yeah. They see things you can't see from inside the Jeep.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, and especially, you know, I had some conversations with some of my trail guides here about being able to trust your spotter. You know, some of us, especially when we get into some of the dumber things we do, you have to be comfortable that you know the spotter isn't going to let you flop or not going to let you hurt your vehicle.
Right.
You know, and you can assure yourself here, all of our spotters have been trained by a lot of very experienced people.
Yeah. So if you're considering, you know, getting out to an event and building your confidence, you know, that curated experience where there's guides and spotters and volunteers who are here to make sure that you're having a great time. Choose your trail wisely and come out to an event that, you know, maybe Rob is running of sorts.
Yep.
And you'll have an awesome experience.